Right, then we're back again. The Hodling Room. How are we doing, Mike?
All good. How are you?
Very good indeed. Ready for BitFest
Yeah,
this weekend,
very
Manchester,
excited actually.
the UK's finest Bitcoin conference. Should be a fun one.
Yeah. Is it, would you say that's the biggest one in the UK?
Probably, yeah. I would
I
say
don't know
so.
any
It's
others, to be fair.
3 days. First day is a Noster event. Second is Bitcoin. I think it's the biggest one, yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I'm excited actually.
Should be a good little excursion. May vlog it, may not. Not sure.
Oh, yeah, do that.
You reckon? Can be a
Oh,
bit cringe walking around with a selfie stick in public at times.
yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be everything though, does it? You can just do like little
Yeah.
snippets.
No, I was going to tell you this story because I was at the pub last night, working, not boozing, and there was basically overheard this conversation between these farmers that were in front of me, and one of the farmers was they were talking about cash, and one of the guys was saying that cash is going to be gone within like a year or two, and that he struggles to accept cash or like take cash out of the bank kind of thing. And this other, he was probably about 50, and this other farmer was probably about 70, 75, something like that. And he was like adamant. He was like, no, no, it's always going to be a thing. It's always going to be a thing. And then they were talking about how hard it is to take cash out of the bank. And the younger guy was like, mate, you literally can't take more than like 3.5 grand out or 4 grand. Bear in mind, these are farmers and they do, one of them had like some building business as well. So he's probably dealing in like tens of thousands of pounds worth of cash.
Yeah.
And the younger guy was arguing. He was saying, "Mate, they might not give it to you. Like you can go in and they can say no because they need to know what's it for." And the older guy was like, "No, legally they have to give it you. If you go in, it's your money." And in my head, I was thinking, actually, no, like that's
It's
not
not your
correct.
money.
It's
Yeah.
not your money. Legally, it ain't your money anymore. And I was
Yeah.
just remembering that story of that dude in Lebanon where he went in and robbed the bank just to
Yeah.
get his
Yeah.
own money. Like he had like 200 grand or 200 whatever Lebanese dollars. And he literally went in with a gun to rob his own cash because they'd only give him like 2 grand.
It's bad.
And in my head, I was thinking, yeah, this younger guy is actually correct. Like you have to ask permission to a bank to get your own money out. Like
That's bad.
this older guy is potentially going to get a bit of a harsh wake up call at some point.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you can go your whole life though and it'll be totally fine. So it's not everyone will have that, and it's not every country, it's not every bank in every country. It will just be, and I mean, to be fair, within our current Ponzi fiat scheme,
Mm.
it is, the older guy kind of has a point because they already have, and I'm sure they will do again, bank bailouts, which basically means he's kind of right. Like they are legally required to do it, and they have the means to be able to do it.
Hmm.
But if you were living in a like a purely sound money system, well, for a start, they couldn't do half the stuff that they do. And if they did, then that is where it could just, like, if they start lending out more than they have, then that's where they could really run into trouble. So
Hmm.
I, I've got a friend who's like works in like the fiat system, works something to do with like credit card payment systems and stuff like that. And he's very much of that mindset. It's like, yeah, but there's a lot of good stuff about having, like, giving the custody to someone else for exactly like this reason. Like in our current system, there kind of is that security, as like what he would call it.
Yeah.
Whereas I see that as terrible. So like the only reason it's secure is because they can debase everyone else's money and then print it and then give it to the bank like that.
Hmm.
That's not good. That's bad for everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas, if they just let it collapse, then obviously it's bad for all the people that hold the cash there, but it's not bad for the rest of the world, or like, everyone else in the country. And so, but yeah, anyway, it's there's still people that cling on to that
Yeah,
the existing model.
which I
I
get.
can understand why. It's
Yeah.
almost just like it's like a kid clinging on, staying at home with their parent because it's much easier, it's much
Mm-hmm.
safer,
There's less responsibility. It's the same
less
with
responsibility.
self-custody Bitcoin. Some people are more comfortable having it on an exchange because they don't have to figure out all of the intricacies of self-custody. But I mean, yeah, there's a pro and there's a con. Like, I remember once I got mugged once, and basically it was like, somebody behind me at a cash point saw me put my pin in when I was living in Sheffield, and then got mugged. And by the time I'd got home, there was like 400 or 500 quid gone from my bank in like the
No,
space of like 10 or 15 minutes. So they'd obviously like robbed me and then gone straight to a cash point because they saw my PIN number. But I called the bank, and this was early hours of the morning, and there was somebody at the bank answered, and I basically said, "Oh, I also rang the police and got like a police number and all that kind of stuff." And I said, "Just been robbed. This money that's been taken out wasn't me." And blah 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 blah. Sorted it all out. Police number, bank. By the time I woke up in the morning, the money was back in my account. Like, I
no
don't
way.
know. Yeah, they just okay. Sorry about that, sir. Kind of thing. Boom. There we go. So I don't know where they got that money from. Like, but I had it reimbursed because it was robbed from me by a
No way.
thief. Yeah.
That's,
So
so
that
again, like that's what makes the point, doesn't it? Of
yeah
like, there are benefits
yeah.
to the current system in that
But at the
aspect.
same time, if the bankers themselves are committing fraud,
That's what I mean.
and they make a mistake, then we have to pay for their mistake because they print more money to bail themselves out for their dodgy dealings, and then it debases everybody else's currency.
But equally,
So
in that exact situation, that's
yeah,
almost definitely what has just happened. They've just
yeah,
typed numbers into the screen, which
yeah,
has then debased everyone's money. Like without, you just inflated the supply. If it was Bitcoin, they've just inflated it from 21 million to
yeah,
21.1 million or whatever it is.
hmm,
And that debases everyone else's money. That's effectively what's just happened.
yeah.
So
They've just
whereas
added numbers on a screen.
for you, the individual, it is beneficial. But for
Hmm.
the society, like if everyone that keeps happening,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's just
there was another guy chatting, and he was talking. Basically, this group of farmers in front of me were just slagging off the bank, so it was quite an interesting conversation I was overhearing. Oh,
when I was out this morning, I was like, this definitely feels like snowing weather. Like
yeah,
I was said if it rains, it's 100% going to snow today. But
yeah. So I'm gonna
I
have to
didn't
go and
think it
film
was
film a
water.
little snow video today. That'll be fun. So yeah, this other guy, basically this group of farmers were just slagging off the banks, and it was typical kind of like slagging off Rachel Reeves and the budget and all that kind of. It was that kind of talk, and one guy was like saying he made a junior bank account, like a junior trust fund for his kid, that he was paying into. So when his kid hits 18, he can like buy a car. And he said he had like 4 grand in this account. But to access this money, he had to go in with the kid to a NatWest branch, and obviously in 18 years that he'd been paying in, there was a lot more branches back then, like high street branches.
Yeah,
But the nearest branch to him was Sheffield City Centre, which is like from where we are, it's over an hour's drive. So they were just laughing about this. They were like, "Hang on, I've just paid this cash into my kid's account. I have to go in with my son to access this cash because it was in the dad's name, I assume, and then so I don't know how it works, but he had to go into a branch to get the cash and pull the cash out, which is an hour's drive. And they were laughing about this. They were saying, right, so you've got to basically take a day off work
yeah,
to drive to Sheffield to get this branch. And they were
yeah.
basically saying like the amount you're going to pay in parking in Sheffield for that is going to take a large chunk of that 4 grand or whatever as it is. They're like, that's so inaccessible. And in my head, I was just thinking that is crap. I
So
was thinking,
what? That's even
Bitcoin fixes this.
when. So he has to do that now.
He said if he wanted to
He wanted to get paid,
withdraw the cash, the kid
right?
wanted to withdraw the cash,
Yeah.
he would have to go in person to a branch with his dad, who was like the trustee or the guy that set up the account, together, and basically say, yeah, this is me, here's my ID, I'm the kid that was the junior account, this is who the account is for,
Yeah.
here's my dad who's been paying into the account, can I have the money please? And even then you literally have to go in and ask permission. So you have to go and find some non-existent branch in the middle of like blooming Narnia, an hour down the road, take a day off work, go in with two people to then ask permission to say, and then they'll say, well, what are you buying it for? It's like, well, I want to buy a car because I'm 18. Like, the whole thing is mental.
It's
So
just
that, but even these dudes that were just normal average Joe farmers were talking about how it's getting harder and harder, and obviously they were talking about tax and all this kind of stuff. And one of the guys was saying, it's literally pointless for me to work now because the amount that I'm already at the tax bracket basically. So if I was to even bother working, he was already retired and had his pension.
yeah.
I end up worse off if I work than if I just don't work. So he had a business, and by the sounds of it, he's taken himself off the books and he just works off the books because he's better off doing that and not paying himself than actually paying himself a wage. I don't know. The whole thing just sounded crazy. And then there was another guy that chimed in, and he was saying they were talking about like a recession, and these old dudes were like, "Oh yeah, there's a recession coming, next year." And then this other guy was like, "No, 2027 is going to be the recession because, China's going to invade Taiwan in 27 because it's the 100-year anniversary of the Chinese army or something like that." And the other guy was like, "No, it's going to be before." But one of the guys was saying the reason that there's going to be a recession is because of the NHS, right? And the NHS is like the third largest employer in the world, and the amount that they're paying in pensions now outweighs the amount of staff that they've got paying into the pension. Something like this, some narrative or other that is going to be the cause of the recession. And in my head, I was thinking, these interesting narratives, and it's true that there's literally no money for pensions, but what about like the actual money itself? Like, what about these are just like narratives within the fiat world. Like, I wanted to just be like, hello guys, what about the fact that there's a group of dudes who just print more money out of thin air? That's why your shit's being debased all the time. That's why the value of your pot is going down all the time, and that's why you're getting taxed all the time. Is because the government's bankrupt because they've got loans which they can't pay back because they have to pay interest on a loan on money that doesn't even exist. Like, the whole thing is just chaos. But I didn't say that. I was just kind of chilling and just over listening. But yeah, I didn't try and orange pill them.
Yeah. It's I think what's so hard as well though is that it's so beyond our like cognitive ability to even comprehend this sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's because it just is not anything that we've ever seen before to like actually have good sound money. And I
Mm.
think the massive thing that I think just makes people be like, nah, that can't be right, is when you just say like there is more debt than there is money in the
Yeah,
world.
that's an interesting one. That if the debt was to be paid off, there'd literally be no money left.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing when
That's a,
people can't get their head around that. They
that's a
just think,
hard
no,
one to
that
get their
doesn't
head
make
around.
any sense. Whereas
Yeah.
like that's the thing in our current debt based fiat system,
Mm.
debt is money.
Yeah.
That is what the money actually is.
Yeah.
So you can't ever pay off the debt because there will be no money left. There's more debt than there is money. So
Well, I try and like simplify. I say, right, if you've got a country and the country's given the permission to a bank to print and create that country's money, right? On day one, let's say, bear in mind that this bank is a group of privately owned secret, investors, but that's a whole nother different story. On day one, they say, okay, right, for your economy, we're gonna print $1 trillion, for example, or like $1 billion. Let's say $1 billion on day one. right, the Federal Reserve is now, the only institution that can create money for this country. Okay, we've got the license, Federal Reserve Act. $1 billion is going in day one. Here we go. But government, we're going to lend you this money we want interest on this money. Okay, so even if it's 1%, okay, we want interest on that. So 1% of $1 billion, right? They're going to want interest paying back the year after. But they've only printed into existence $1 billion. That's the entire currency in existence. But they want interest on that,
Yeah.
right? So how on earth, even if you were to pay back all of that $1 billion, which is all of the money that exists in that currency, in that country, for that population, they still want the interest on top, right? Which is literally the essence of usury. It doesn't exist. Therefore, as soon as you get into that day one, you're trapped. Basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're enslaved. It's literally slavery to that, because you're never ever going to be able to pay that back. And then you think, shit, I can't pay this back. Okay, well, what I'm going to have to do next year? Print more money. Okay, so now we printed 2 billion, and now we want 1% on 1.01. Okay, and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And then as time goes on, you get into this absurd situation like the US government is, where it's like 40 trillion in debt. And you're like, how does that even exist? How is that even a thing? Who are they in debt to? It's literally just interest that's compounded and compounded and compounded. And then they think, right, okay, we need to pay off our debt. We need to tax people more. More tax, 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 tax. Shit, we need to start invading other countries to get some of their wealth to pay off some of our debt, right? Because it's that kind of thing. Because they can't pay it off. And if they default, well, what happens if you default on your mortgage? The bank comes and takes your shit. They'll come and knock it on your door and take your house. So this private group of bankers has literally got any country that's in this system has got them by the balls, because if they bankrupt, well, the bank will come and take your shit. They'll take your land, your resources, whatever, to which no country's going to do. So they print more money and they kick the can down the road, and they debase the currency even more. And as Simon Dixon would say, this creates the K-shaped economy. Do you know what I mean? And then the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean, the more you look into the whole system, and it starts from education, really. The the pressure and the incentive, like the way that teachers, parents, everyone in society encourages people to go and get into debt by basically going to university. That's what's really happening. That's the
Yeah.
game that's actually happening, without trying to sound too much like a conspiracy theorist. But that is literally what they're trying to do, is try and get people into as much debt as possible, because that helps to stimulate the economy, because debt is money. And then that's how they can keep building this massive debt snowball. Whereas,
Yeah.
when we were young, our parents' generation, it was quite rare for people to go to university. Whereas today, it's almost weird if you don't go to university. You know what I mean? Like, kids leaving school now are just expected to go and do some sort of degree, some sort of Mickey Mouse degree, which
Yeah.
literally does sweet FA, like in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. But, it's
And
just
some of the degrees they have now are crazy. I heard of one at the University of Brighton, which was a degree in air guitar.
what? No, that can't be real.
Well, let me just double check. Let me
That can't
fact
be
check.
real. Surely not. But yeah, no, I mean, there's
But
so
there
many.
was also, there was like a degree in surfing or something like that.
Yeah, there's water sports. So I did sports science at uni, and I had a friend who did water sports science. I was like, what? How is that a thing?
Right. It was a hang on. It was the subject of a PhD. That's what it was. It wasn't an actual full degree. It was somebody doing a music degree. They did their PhD on air guitar. That was it. But again,
What?
that's a worthwhile,
PhD. So they're now called Doctor something because they did that.
Imagine that. It's like somebody's having a heart attack. It's like, quick, we need a doctor. It's like, I am a doctor.
Doctor
A, med-
TC.
a medical doctor. No, I did the history of air guitar. Oh, okay. Thank you, doctor. Yes, come and resuscitate this patient.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy.
but it's just getting silly. Do you know? And this is the other thing actually. So at the minute, we, my wife and I, we're actually looking to move. So we've got two small kids, and when we came back, we moved back from the Middle East, and we came to this like a townhouse. We didn't really know what we were going to be doing long term. We didn't know if we were going to go back abroad or move somewhere else. We didn't know if we'd like this place. We were like, let's just try and get something that can do us, but it's basically as cheap as possible because we might only be there for 2 years, and we don't want to be, the bigger the house you get, the more stamp duty, etc. And I don't want to be paying extra tax and blah 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 when we might only just be there for a couple of years and move. But anyway, our kids are now like they're getting bigger. When we moved, he was at like 6 month old, and now he's almost 3, and so he's just tearing the place up. We need more space. Basically, it's not big enough. So we're sort of looking at, but again, the same thing applies. It could be our forever home, whatever. But also, I've only got like 1 year's of tax, whatever it is, like 1 year within the business to show them like the income. They always want like 2 years if you want to be getting a bigger mortgage. Anyway, long story short, I saw a place the other day for that we could rent. I think I spoke to you actually about this on Monday, and since then I found somewhere that would actually be really good. It
Okay.
would mean we'd be paying more than what our current mortgage is, but it's like 70% more, so it's quite a significant amount more than what
Yeah.
we would be paying. So that's what's put my wife off, and she's kind of like, yeah, but it doesn't go into anything as well, like that money's just going.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you've got to understand, like, if we'd be receiving that cash out, and I think we should be able to cover it, like each month payments anyway, that should be fine. But it's sort of one of those things where it should be fine. Like, neither of us have like a full-time job. She works 2 days a week, and I'm doing my like SEO stuff for another business, and it could, like, if one of those things disappeared, it could impact our income. So that's what she's worried about, sort of thing. It's not like we're both full-time teachers like what we used to be, where it's like stable income. Anyway, she's mentioned it to her mum, and her mum was instantly like, oh no, what's the point in renting? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because it's been so ingrained into society and culture that you have to go and buy a house in the UK anyway. Like, otherwise you're off the property ladder, you're just in trouble. Like, there's no way that's like a terrible idea. It would be ludicrous to someone to sell your house, go and rent, put
Yeah.
that in Bitcoin. Whereas actually, that's actually like, in my eyes, that's the safer thing to do. Which,
So is that are you weighing up the pros and cons of doing that?
yeah, I mean, but like, from my eyes, there are no cons and only pros from doing that. And the
Okay.
house is actually way nicer than any of the other houses that we're looking at to buy. So it's like,
So
it's
your
win-win.
plan is, you're thinking long term. Obviously, your plan would be to sell your house, which you own,
Yeah,
and then put that cash that's in the house into Bitcoin and hold it there.
yep,
Pay rent, which would, you'd assume would be a fixed rate for however long, might go up a little bit over the
yeah.
years, but
Obviously, it could change.
and then in say 5 years, 10 years time, the amount the Bitcoin would have appreciated in value more than the house would have, and then you're in a better off situation. Is that the plan?
That's it. That's
Okay,
exactly.
interesting. Would you at some point, let's say in like 10 years time, would you sell any Bitcoin to then rebuy a house?
Well, yeah, that's what I would say to her as well. Is like, this is our house money. So
Okay.
however much Bitcoin that buys us,
Yeah, I'm
that
just imagining your wife's face like during like a potential bear market for like 2 or 3 years.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing.
Shit.
This is actually what I've said to her as well. It's
Yeah.
because also I've spoke to you numerous times about this. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we will just hold on to this cash for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and coincidentally, that happens to time exactly when I would be interested in buying Bitcoin anyway.
Mm-hmm.
For what I personally think, it obviously might not happen. And funny enough, those guys in the pub saying, "Oh, it could be like a recession or something coming next year." I actually think we're probably already in a recession, like just
Mm-hmm.
based on numerous things. Like the government in the US just literally have disappeared and have lost some data or something. They haven't
Mm.
reported it, which just says to me they've got the data. They're not that
They
incompetent. Come on,
can't. No, no,
they've
no,
got
they're
the
not.
data. They just know that if they release it, it will be
Yeah.
terrible, and everyone will realize how bad things actually are at the minute. But
Yeah.
anyway, um,
That's so mental that it's like imagine that you have to tell some bad news to somebody. So you instead of it's like so you just lock yourself in your house
well,
and close the
yeah,
curtains for
first of
like
all, we're
it's
going
like
on holiday. So
yeah.
that's what they did. They had a government holiday. And then when they came back, it's like, oh no, we're not really sure on this where this data is anymore.
What was it? The jobs was it the jobs market data for like
Yeah,
how many
like jobs
jobs losses?
market and
Yeah.
like the usual stuff that they report. But anyway, that's what I would say to her is like would hold it for a year,
Yeah.
hold the cash for a year, just so it gives me more time to orange pill you like properly.
Yeah.
Because she understands and she gets it, but she still thinks I'm just a bit crazy. And she just thinks
Mm-hmm.
I'm like obsessed and
Mm.
solely focused on that one thing. No matter how much I've tried to explain to her, I was like, I've been through property, I've been through God. It's not just one thing. It's like
Mm.
this is the thing. It's like it's totally separate. Everything else is all in one system, and it's
Yeah.
almost put them all under the same umbrella. Whereas this is a completely different system, and it's like I think before, to be honest, before 2020, I still was very much like the state's not going to allow this. They're just not going to allow. They're going to squash this somehow. They're going to. I never once thought they'd be accepting it and like actually stockpiling it, and I never thought it would be by now, like in 2025. I thought there's zero chance that would happen. I thought maybe like eventually when the cat's out the bag and like enough people have got it, but I thought there'd be a lot more time of them trying to kill it and squash it and
Mm.
get rid of it. Whereas now with like strategy, I think that's what Michael Saylor has done so well is just
Like normalize the
normalize it,
institutional.
normalize it
Yeah.
for institutions. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, there's a lot of debate whether that's a good or bad thing. And I actually do think that's where the biggest threat is still. But
Mm.
equally, at the same time, it's like it's too gone, it's too big now. Like there's no way they can put the genie back in the bottle. Like it's out. Like I think there's far too many people that do understand what's happening, and you can't just get rid of it from all those institutions, all the countries that do hold it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that the biggest threat is just having governments, institutions, BlackRock holding all of the Bitcoin. But I think it was something you said before once where because you can't just print more, well, paper Bitcoin is, but again, this is why self custody is important. But
That's
like
exactly it. That is
actual Bitcoin itself, um, if at any point, let's say BlackRock wants to distribute the Bitcoin or like use it or pay people in it or that kind of thing, they have to redistribute it.
that's it.
It's literally like, I mean, it's like a piece of gold. Like if you want to buy a company
You want to
or
create an
what,
army to
yeah,
control everyone.
exactly.
You're going
You
to have to
have to
pay
pay
them.
them in that,
Yeah,
unless you're paying them in some kind of like
paper gold
paper
or
gold,
paper Bitcoin,
exactly.
which is
Or
that is the threat.
but
That
even
is the
even
time.
like back in the day, like these Roman emperors or whatever that used gold and they would clip the coins a little bit to debase the gold, or they'd like put gold coins in a bag and shake it up and then use that dust and then make new coins with it. You literally cannot do that with Bitcoin. It's literally undebasable. It's
If
verified.
it's
It's
in self
verified.
custody,
If what? If it's in self
if it's
custody,
in self
exactly. Yeah.
custody,
Well, I'm talking about actual on-chain Bitcoin. Like
exactly.
you can verify that it's yours or it's mine or it ain't. Like, do you know what I mean? You can verify that it's it's uncounterfeitable, if that's a word.
Yeah.
It's undebasable.
Well, you should then mix copper into the gold as well.
Yeah, I mean,
To
you
basically,
can't do that with Bitcoin. Therefore, you have to spend it, you have to redistribute it eventually. Like, so in terms of like it being centralized by these institutions, in terms of, I think it's probably like the worst currency for them to do that with, because you can't debase it, you can't counterfeit it, you have to redistribute it. So I can see why BlackRock is so kind of into this whole ETF thing,
I think what the threat is, though,
and why proof of reserves is such an important
you
thing.
you are exactly right, and I think this is why Bitcoin is different. But I think what the real threat is, though, and I don't think it's likely anymore, is that they can just buy it all up and then say like the US then, because I mean, what is it, 9 out of the top 12 ETFs are custodied in Coinbase strategy. Most of it is in Coinbase, so it's not even like a few doors that need to knock on. The government or the state, whoever it is, they just need to literally control
Yeah,
Coinbase.
and you've seen how pally Coinbase are getting with current administration. Like,
This is
wasn't it Coinbase just bought like this whole new palace building for Trump or whatever? Like,
oh really?
his new White House ballroom was literally funded by. Let me pull this up. It was literally funded by Coinbase.
No.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's what the threat really is that they control the vast majority, as in like 80-90% plus. If it can get into one or two companies' hands, which then can be controlled by certain bad actors, that's when you could create things like a soft fork or something like that. So this exact talk of what's going on now with the Bit 444,
mhm,
create a soft fork, and if you control the vast amount of the supply, then miners are incentivized by monetary transactions, as we've, or like what makes them the most money, as what we've seen.
mhm.
Then all they have to do is create a soft fork. It could just be a subtle change to start with, and then be like, this is the one that we recognize, and then everyone kind of has to follow them. And so you might have some of the like unbribable minority, as I call them, of like people that will still be like, no, this is the real Bitcoin. But then, this is what happens is like when the free market, as they call it, when the free market talks, they will go to whatever the actual Bitcoin is, and that becomes the actual Bitcoin. There's tons of people that will be saying like BSV is the real Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, and yeah. Anyway, is that
Yeah,
is that
yeah. This is just the article that what's this that I mentioned. Basically, Coinbase ripple among crypto titans donating to Trump's new White House ballroom. So they're already like in the pocket. White House announced the construction of this ballroom costing $300 million. So yeah, if you were saying all of their, um, you know, all of these institutions are holding custody of Bitcoin with Coinbase. Coinbase are getting pally to the point where they're literally spending 300 million quid on a new ballroom for the government.
yeah, yeah, the whole
Then
like the
maybe the US government would just be like, right, go on, what are you saying?
like the Simon Dixon's theory is that
Mm,
there's the likes of BlackRock and those financial institutions that literally control the world. They're the deep state or whatever
yeah.
it is that you want to call them. They're the people that are actually pulling the strings.
Mm.
And
The
if
proof of
Coinbase,
weapons network, as he calls it.
yeah, if
Yeah.
Coinbase are in bed with these guys, then that is
Then that's it.
literally
They own
what
it.
they're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean, oh, that's it then, Bitcoin's dead. Like it just means that we need more and more people to understand that you have to hold it in self
Self
custody. You have
custody.
to run a
Exactly.
node, and
Exactly.
and it's growing, that number of people that get it. Like as in me and you, for example, this time last
Yeah.
year, we're not part of this
Mm-hmm.
group of people, and now we are. Like we both run
Mm-hmm.
node, both holding it in self custody, like properly, and transferring it through the node. Like as long as there are more and more people doing that, then it is decentralized, it is secure, and it almost doesn't matter what these people do. But the more people that see it as just a speculative investment and an asset in the current fiat system, and they're going to, once number
Yeah,
goes up enough, they're just going to sell it and go back to being
yeah,
rich in the current system. As soon as you sell it, that is literally going to go to the ETFs and these people that
yeah.
control it.
I've been thinking about this. I was going to do a video about this, about like the different types of Bitcoin. I like there is like a distinctive. Um, there's almost like two groups that I can see. You've got these kind of tradfi dudes, these crypto bros that are in it to make a bit of money, because they see number go up, so they think, oh, I can make some money on this. When it hits the high, I'll sell. Or, these kind of traditional dudes. But then you've got this other side where you've got this kind of militant, these militant ideologues that want to separate money from state, that they are literally like, fuck the government, fuck the fiat system. This is gonna eradicate the banks, and Bitcoin is a solution to. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's these two different parties. So you've got like the Simon Dixons on one side, and then you've got the Michael Saylors on the other.
That's exactly it. And there is almost like two schools of thought in a minute. And I guess that is kind of where the attack does almost become kind of more, there's more legs to it, sort of thing. Like, because
I mean, yeah,
if more and more people do go with that, because I don't think, at the minute, Michael Saylor hasn't done anything bad at all. He's only done pure good. Like, as I've said, he's done so much good for Bitcoin because he's really helped government and these financial institutions to understand it, and now they're holding it on their balance sheet, and that is
yeah,
massive. Like,
yeah, and I think,
when there is hyper Bitcoinization, every single company in the world will hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet because that will be what money is. Like, they'll have to. So he's accelerating it, which is a really good thing. It's just when that time comes when he will be, or you say he, but it'll be more than just him now. But like, when strategy is on Wall Street, like properly, and like actually becomes like one of their assets, like, is he enough orange pill, and does he see the vision enough to be like, to not be coerced into whatever it is?
yeah,
Or,
is he going to be that guy to,
and arguably, is like, is it even his choice? Like, like,
yeah,
can could they just be like, this is our Bitcoin now? Like, I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
yeah,
But I'm aware that I think that is what I see as the only real threat to Bitcoin. But as long as enough people use it in a circular economy,
yeah,
like places like Madeira and all these places that are popping up, the more people that transact in it, the more people that use it as their actual payment system, the less and less likely that is to occur. I think they
yeah.
hold something like 3 million on exchanges and in ETFs in a minute, 3 million Bitcoin, which is about 15% of the supply. But there's something like towards 50% if you include all miners and all of that sort of stuff. So basically around 50% is still held by just plebs and individuals, and 50% not. But I don't know where you like.
Well, this is Simon Dixon also.
Or whatever.
He'll also say that this idea of being enticed to take a loan out against your Bitcoin is purely so these institutions can get your
Get more
keys,
and more.
because they want you. It's like a casino. It's like the casino wants you in there. Sure, have a great time, but they want your cash. Like, don't be deceived. They
Yeah,
want you to lose your shit. They might pay you out. You might win one day, but they want your cash. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of taking a loan out against your Bitcoin is so they can either make cash out of you or take your Bitcoin. This is what Simon Dixon would say. So Yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm planning on doing anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it's nuanced as well. You know, like as in, if you already hold 100 Bitcoin and you've been
Yeah.
holding for freaking ages, then hats off to you. That's incredible. If someone's been
Hmm.
able to do that and go through all the FUD and everything, um, and if you've done that, you probably deserve to take some lifestyle chips off and
Hmm.
go and live your life better rather than just holding like Bitcoin. You know,
Yeah.
what good is that to do you?
Yeah.
Rather than sell, I would argue, rather than just sell it, if you can find a company to lend it to and improve your lifestyle like that, then you were going to sell that Bitcoin anyway. So maybe you only get like half your lifestyle chips as to what you would be planning on, or you sell a bit more, like whatever. You know, say you sell 5 Bitcoin or something out of the 100 that you own, then that's not, you're still vastly in self custody. It improves your life massively, and then the
Hmm.
plan is to, however possible, then like, you know, you could just do that whole thing of
A
was it
small percent. Yeah.
Mark Moss's idea of then you just keep borrowing a bit more and more and more over time, sort of thing, and that's how you live. But then it's
Yeah.
still only a tiny part of your stack, so it's very hard to just say blanket statement. You should or should not do it. I
Hmm.
think there's more nuance to it, and it depends on the situation. But for the
Yeah.
vast majority of people who own less than 1 Bitcoin, I just think it's a terrible idea. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah, but the motive behind these kind of loans for the companies, like no doubt in the in the boardroom meeting, they're like, well, yeah, it's great when they default because we get to keep their Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like this whole like Jack Mallers and whatnot. Like he
yeah,
gets criticized on his podcast because people say this, um, and they'll say, um, oh, these kind of loans that you just want us to default so you can take more of our Bitcoin. And he's like, no, I'm doing it for the Bitcoin community. In my head, I'm thinking, shut up. Like, you've got $1 billion business, you're offering these loans
yeah.
in the
I think
boardroom.
something's changed
You
with him for sure.
Well,
Like,
in the boardroom, anybody in these kind of finance boardrooms, they're going to be saying, right, what's the purpose of us offering these loans? We either get the money back with interest, great, or they default and we take the Bitcoin, great as well.
better.
Like that's the whole business better, exactly. That's
Yeah,
the whole business model. At no point is it for the Bitcoin culture for these people to live. Oh, you haven't paid off your loan? No worries, bro. It's for the culture. Like we'll push it
yeah.
down the road.
I remember
Like,
seeing that
come
talk he
on.
did. Was it in Vegas or something, where he basically just was selling that thing, like
Yeah,
his new loan, and I was just like, whoa! I did not have that on my cards. Like, I did
yeah,
not see that coming. I've heard Simon Dixon say as well, as like now with what he's doing, he's 100% going to be in bed with this like deep state and
well,
stuff. Like
he said the mafia, didn't he?
the mafia, yeah,
The proof of weapons mafia or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, you're offering loans to
But
people at interest. Like, it's
equally,
again,
like,
it's usury again.
yeah,
Like,
but
you
equally,
want
that's
people
not,
to you benefit off people getting wrecked, basically.
yeah.
Whether it's in Bitcoin or if it's in fiat, you benefit. The whole business model is wrecking people.
But
REKT.
yeah, no, I think yeah, the
It's
whole
not
business
for the
for
culture. It's
sure.
not. You're not offering. Oh,
But
it's
this is
like,
where I don't really like conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and stuff in the sense where you're coming to a you know, Simon Dixon there is coming to a conclusion about Jack Mallers and he has no proof.
mm,
Like, as in, and I think that's where, and this is what's been happening with the core knot stuff all the time, is like people are
mm-hmm,
coming to conclusions about individuals without any actual real evidence. Like,
mm-hmm.
sure, you might believe that strongly, but there is no proof, and like that's quite a serious like
Yeah,
allegation to have like against and against a certain person. But for
yeah.
sure,
I
like you
mean,
can have these theories about what could happen bad for Bitcoin, and like
yeah.
what you were saying
I
is
mean,
that is the
I,
business model.
I
That's
was I, I was going back
catastrophic.
to, as I said earlier, when you have like on a foundational level, if you've got a bank that offers a country a loan, right, at interest, that offering the interest on the loan is the issue, right? and you benefit off that person basically being stuck in that debt forever. You're offering interest on a loan, which is usury, right? And loads of countries outlaw usury, or not countries, but do you know what I mean? People have outlawed usury because they say you're getting somebody into a form of debt slavery. So whether you are a Federal Reserve offering practicing usury on a country level, whether you're a payday loan wanting interest on some random guy that can't pay his bills, whether you're a Bitcoin loan company offering somebody a loan at interest on the Bitcoin, whether you're Halifax Bank, all of these things are practicing usury, which some could argue, like at its core, foundationally, is immoral. Whether you are in Bitcoin or in fiat or payday loan or on a bank level, like the Federal Reserve,
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same thing. Like interest, like trying to make money from money that doesn't exist, is that morally acceptable in the first place? Some would argue it's not.
that's really well explained actually, because when I was in the Middle East, I had a really good friend who he's from the UK, but he's Muslim, and he was always very much of like that.
Well,
Like
it is outlawed in Islam, yeah.
exactly. So like borrowing and taking interest. And I never really understood it. Like, he tried to explain it to me, but the way you explained it there makes so much more sense. Like, if that is the reason, then that actually is like pretty legit. Like that.
Yeah,
That
I
makes sense.
mean the way it used to be outlawed in, like, as far as I know, it's still outlawed in Islam, but it used to even be outlawed in like Christian countries
Mm.
when Christian countries were actually Christian, if that makes sense. Like when the church and the state were like one, and then it slowly crept in, and it was like, okay, well, what is acceptable? Okay, well, 1% is acceptable as
Yeah,
long as it's
yeah.
not
It's like
excessive, and then it
boiling the
kind
frog,
of,
isn't it? It's not
yeah,
overnight. It's just
it
slowly
kind of
done.
kind of crept in. But a lot of the early church dudes would say that any usury is a form of slavery, because if you give somebody a loan and then you say, "Well, I'll give you that, but I want interest on that loan," they have to work more um, hours in the day to pay off that interest. So you're effectively stealing their time. And if you trap them for long enough, then they basically become your slave, because they have to work to pay off this interest that, if it compounds, they can't get out of. And because you're forcing this person to work, that's their time. So you're effectively stealing their time and benefiting from their time. And their time is their life, right? So if you read a lot of these old
Yeah.
school church fathers from like 1,000 years ago, they say it's literally like a form of murder, because they were that extreme with it, because you're stealing somebody else's life for something that you're just making for free out of thin air. So this is why it was so outlawed.
God,
You
yeah.
know,
No, and
it was like a huge, huge issue. This,
just just even from like a very small personal case, like with me
yeah,
with our house that we're trying to sell at the minute, like this has literally been why I was like, I just want out. I just want to be done with this and sold, because the house works as an investment, great. But all the concerns I had before getting it, because it's like we've turned it into like a 7-bed HMO, so we rent each room out. And so the concerns I really had was, like, what if the tenants trash the place, and like, they have to keep repairing things and blah blah blah, and managing it. Whereas we just hired a lettings agent, and they've actually been great, and they just keep getting people in, and we never have to deal with it or anything. So on that side, it's actually been brilliant, because it's quite affordable and it's done to a high standard. It's easy to let out, because comparably to the market, we've actually done a really good job. Like, it actually looks, it's a really nice place to live. They've all got en suites. And anyway, the issue that I've had with it though is we've had in, what is it now, 7 years. In 7 years, we've had to refinance 3 times, and every single time that we've had to, there has been an insane issue. Well, technically four, because we actually had a bridging loan to do the work when we were changing it initially. And so the bridging loan that we got initially was maybe like, I don't know, about like 60 grand. Like, we tried to get cash, like, and the people that were doing this with, they had some cash as well. So we used as much cash as possible to try and keep the loan down. But in like a 60 grand, bridging loan, like how much do you think we paid on like fees? Like genuinely, like how much do you think we would have paid in 9 months? This is
So a 9 month loan, 60 grand, 5 grand.
we, we paid about £20,000.
That's mental.
That was just disappeared. And I was like, I remember this happening because I was just tracking everything. I was like really on the ball with like what where money was going, why it was going, blah blah blah. And I was just like, guys, we've just spent like what's that in percent? It's 33. We've just spent 33% interest in 9 months. That's not even a year. And they're like, no, that can't be right. I was like, well, here's the numbers because there's fees to go into it. So they charge you fees just to start it. So when they say 60 grand, it's not 60 grand. Like you start on day one at like 65, and 5 grand of that is just fees. And then when you exit, they take fees. And then there was just random things which just sounded they're confusing. They don't even make sense. Like they're just like, oh, this much has gone here. And it's like, but why? Like, why is that money just gone? It's basically just an outright scam. And like you were saying, though, how it sort of takes your life. Like that's an extreme example. But if I was doing this on scale, I could 100% see this because even recently, it's just been so. It's like on the back of my mind all the time. It's like I just need out of it, and like you're.
Yeah.
It's just been a constant drag. And this last one that we had was an absolute pain in the butt. I don't want to go into like all the details, but we just couldn't get out of it because there was like this issue going on with the land registry. So it's just some government thing, and everyone's twiddling their thumbs waiting for them to do it. I'm like calling them every other week and just trying to get some answers, and you always get a new person who just pushes you around and doesn't have a clue what's going on, and it's an absolute nightmare. And so our fees have then gone double what they should have been because now we're over when we should have paid it back, and it's just it was horrendous. Whereas like without that, like if it was just easy to refinance, which is what everyone says it is, just get a good mortgage broker, and we did all that. Like we tried months before it was coming to an end, and it just every single time it's been a pain in the bum. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Like another 2 years go past, and I'm going to go back to square one and be in this exact situation. So no, I'm done with this. I don't. And like understanding Bitcoin now, it's like, well, there's a clear, way better alternative anyway. So
yeah, it's the interest that kills you. I had a friend that got trapped in a payday loan once, and I remember this was years ago, but I remember at the time how like stressed out he was.
Yeah.
Because this payday loan, payday loans are mad. It was something like it was like a month loan, right? For like 800 quid or something like this, but the interest was like over 1,000% or something ridiculous like this. So basically, if you miss the payment, you just get wrecked instantly, right? And he ended up missing this payment, and I remember it was something like he ended up owing like 5 grand, right, to this payday. It was insane, right?
It's mad, isn't it?
And then he got trapped in this thing, and in the end, he had to like call. He ended up making a deal with them, and like just so the interest wouldn't compound even more. And there is like a legal limit on the amount that it can actually go to. But he was basically at like it had 5x'd in like 2 months or something, and he was like, oh, "There's no way I'm ever gonna be able to get out of this," right? So he ended up having to like call them, and then call some other people, and in the end, they offered him a deal. They're like, "Right, we're not gonna give you any more interest, but we'll make a payment plan so you can pay off this 5 grand." It was literally like some mafia shit, and he was like distraught because he was like, "Well, I'm gonna have to work for the next however long just to pay off this payment plan." The whole thing was messed up. But that's an extreme case. But even the fact that I also know somebody else who has a loan, and they're basically just paying the interest, and the amount they pay per month just pays the interest on that loan, and it's like you're just treading water then. But even the UK government, I've heard that we're basically now at the point where we're just taking out loans to pay off the interest on the on the loan from the previous time. Like there's no new money. The only people that benefit from that is the banks that gave you the loan. That's it. This is why any kind of interest is so nefarious. And this is why entire religions and countries outlawed it from ground floor. Even 1% in, Muslim countries or what used to be Christian countries, not allowed whatsoever, because it leads to this kind of debt slavery. Literally debt slavery. You have to work for nothing and somebody else benefits off your work. That's literally a form of slavery.
It's
You know,
just it's terrible, isn't it? It really
yeah.
is. When you like peel back the layers. Have you
Yeah.
seen the Bank of Dave or the Bank of Dave 2?
Nah, what is that?
He basically goes after payday loans. So he wants to set up his own bank in the UK. I think he's the only bank, the only new bank that has been set up in the UK in a ridiculous amount of time. I can't remember, 30, 50 years, something like that.
Right.
And he's actually managed to do this. So it's based on a true story. They're great watches, and it's just
The
a
Bank of Dave.
yeah, it's great. It's like a film. It's an actual
Okay.
film. So it's not a boring documentary. It's actually a really well done film, and it is based on the true story. And basically, that's what was happening. Is that he's from Burnley, just some guy from Burnley, which is like near Manchester, and he was noticing that all these friends and people that because I think he had some sort of business. I can't remember what it was, but he basically made a lot of money, and people he was like just speaking to a guy in a pub or something. He was like, "Yeah, I'm getting a payday loan," and he was like, "How much interest you pay on that?" And he told him it was like 30% or something insane. Or no, is it like 10% a month? It's
Well,
ridiculous.
payday loans are insane, but like 30% is like a standard credit card interest.
Oh yeah, that's per
But
month,
but
isn't it?
but it
Per month? No,
compounds.
that's per
It,
year. That's credit card is like 22% a year, isn't it? Is that right?
well, as far as I know, payday loans they're capped. Let me just pull it up. But the cap is like 1,200% or something ridiculous, which is in a year.
But yeah, this is what he realized how terrible, and he was like, "I'll give you the money. I'll loan it to you." And they were like, "How much do you want?" He was like, 1%, or he might have even just given it for free. He was like, "Just pay me back," because it was like a mate. And so he just started. Other people started doing this, and he would
Hmm.
look into what it is that they're doing, and then he started doing it more and more. And then he was like, I could just why don't I just create a bank and like offer people a fair loan, basically.
Hmm.
And so he did. And then he pretty much took. I think payday loans still exist today, but I think they're much more. They're nowhere near as bad as they were before he did this. Like,
Well,
literally went after them in the end. And
I think it was.
please
I
take.
think legislation did come in, but it says here
Yeah,
basically there's not 0.8% daily interest, but it compounds to 1,250% APR, which is a standard benchmark for payday loans. Borrowers will never have to pay back more than double the amount they initially borrowed, as that must be a new thing that came in because people were getting wrecked. Interesting.
When did that come in? Did it say?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, it's a really interesting watch though. But yeah, I mean,
2015 it came in.
let's see when Bank of Dave was. Bank of Dave timeline. Yeah, it's a Burnley Bill, Channel 4 TV. There's a TV series in 2012, a book in 2013, and a Netflix movie in 2023,
Mm.
and then a sequel movie in 2025. So it's about 2011, I think, is when he was doing it in real life, by the looks of it.
Yep.
But yeah, the films are good. They're just good watches in general for like anyone. They like. Then my wife likes them, so it's quite. It's
I'll
quite.
check it out. Bank of Dave. Yeah, I know Simon Dixon said that he tried to create his own bank at one point,
Yeah,
but it just
it
basically wasn't allowed. They were like, you can create it, but
didn't have
you've got
enough.
to be you've got to be locked into our bank
Yeah,
to do it. It's like, well, that's not that was beside the point.
So what is it's called Burnley Savings and Loans.
As far as I know, in some countries, like Muslim countries, where you're not allowed interest, they do still have loans, but they offer like a fixed fee. So
Right.
it'll be like, right, you want to borrow £1,000, well, it's going to cost you 80 quid or whatever, and then that's it. It's fixed fee rather than any kind of percentage increase on top,
Yeah.
um, which still technically is making money from money, but people aren't going to get as wrecked by the compound interest rate. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost like you've got this fee. This is the privilege of this loan is you
Is
pay
there
80
like a
quid.
timeline to that as well? Like you have to
I
pay.
assume so. I haven't fully looked into it, but as far as I know, that's like the Muslim workaround for it. Um,
Yeah, so it was in 2011 he started the Burnley Savings and Loans, which is the official bank, in September 2011. Burnley Savings and Loans bank to create in the UK. I was going to say, should we just should we just
well,
cut this as an episode and then do
yeah,
another?
shall we? I was gonna. It's because
That's a very
it's
long time. People to wait for the book.
it's been an hour and we haven't even got to the book. But yeah, shall we? I'll make a little cup of tea and then come back and do the book after.
The bank. So first, I'm trying to figure out when the how long it was. I'm sure it's something like the first bank to open in a long time, but I need AI for this. I can't use Google anymore or like search engines. I don't know
I
about
mean, I
you.
wonder. I wonder if he come into the same things, the same issues that Dixon did. If it was around the same time, you know, okay, you can have your own bank, but you have to still
Oh, he almost
be,
definitely will have. Yeah,
yeah.
he will have had to. But he's, you can tell from the films as well. And like, just I've read a bit about him since watching the film. Like, he's obviously a guy from the people for the people, and
Mm,
he's obviously doing it for the right reasons.
mm-hmm.
It's not like he's. But yeah, I'm sure he will have had to bow down to the powers that be to actually get it
I
created.
wonder if he's a Bitcoiner now. Then
Interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. Actually, I don't know.
mm. We'll leave it on that cliffhanger. Should we call it a day for this one and then crack on with the book in a
Yeah,
few
let's
minutes?
go for it.
Right then. Thanks for listening, folks. See you next time.
Book next one.